Well, good morning and welcome back to Let's Discuss with John Barba. So, I decided that today um, we may we may do a regular video on. I've brought this up in previous videos about the Bill of Rights, but boy, I got to tell you right now, there's a whole lot of talk about free speech and religion and so forth. And I thought this would be a good opportunity for us just to have a basic conversation about the first 10 amendments. And we're going to start today with the First Amendment. I'm going to read it to you because so many people take it out of context or like to pull little things from it. Let's just look at what does the First Amendment say, um, or what does it say? So the First Amendment reads as such: Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, or abridging the freedom of speech, or of the press, or the right of people peaceably to assemble and to petition the government for a redress of grievances. So let's talk about a few of these things very quickly. And we need to put them in context. At the time the Constitution was written, we had just achieved our independence from Great Britain, where they do have an established church, the Church of England. And there were many people that immigrated to America because they wanted freedom from government control. They wanted, at that time, government control really meant uh, kings, dictators. Um, the England had a king. The Germany had the Holy Roman Emperor, as they like to call themselves. The French had a king. The Spanish had a king, and they all dictated the religion that their country and those under their rule would participate in. Even though there were people that practiced different faiths in these countries, there was a stated state religion. If you were in Spain, the state religion was Catholicism. Same thing with France. In England, it was the Church of England. Other countries had the same thing. And we were going to be different. We were going to allow the individual to decide how or what faith they were going to practice. And therefore, this is our First Amendment in our Bill of Rights. The First Amendment says that the country will never have a stated religion or establish a religion, and that you as an individual are not prohibited from practicing a particular faith. Obviously, that's been expanded in recent years to people stating that we shouldn't have references to faith, which is difficult to understand considering that the founding of our country was based on Christian Judeo beliefs. That's what the fundamentals of our laws are based on that. And so often people get the misunderstanding that faith is, a stated religion. You know, not believing in God can be a faith. If you're an atheist, that is a type of faith. You believe there is not a God. and therefore you live under certain rules that are supported by the lack of a divine being. That's a faith. And so I think sometimes we need to be careful about the country establishing a faith. That doesn't mean that they decide everybody is going to be Hindu. If they decide everybody is going to be atheist, that's the establishment of a faith. And we need to be careful about that. We also need to be careful about people being able to practice their faith. The recent DOJ, FBI investigations of traditional Catholics because they're considered potential terrorists. I'm Catholic. I personally would prefer it if we did have Mass in Latin. We keep changing our missal because we keep deciding we uh, misinterpreted since the 1960s the Greek and the Latin. So therefore, we need to change the verbiage because we didn't, translate correctly or whatever the case may be. We'd solve a whole lot of that if we just went back to doing Mass in Greek and Latin. Just saying. You don't have to worry about whether you've interpreted or translated the language correctly if you go back to the language. Um, but to say that I'm a terrorist because I believe that I should be able to practice my faith the way that I want to practice my faith, which, by the way, does not infringe on anybody else, doesn't infringe on non Catholics. The way I want to practice my Catholic faith doesn't infringe on other Catholics. Um, and so when the government starts pointing fingers at people like me and saying that we're some sort of terrorist because of the way we want to practice our faith, sure seems like an infringement of prohibiting the free exercise thereof. Just saying, would love to have your opinions on it. Now let's talk about another one that's real big right now that is in the First Amendment, and that is abridging the freedom of speech. Now, we keep seeing this in the news. Um, these protesters supporting Hamas, some of them, and we always want to be open, honest, and notorious in this series of videos. There are people that are protesting because they support the Palestinian people. That does not necessarily mean that those people support Hamas, which is a terrorist organization, even if they want to claim they are a political organization, because political organizations that kill innocent people, those are terrorist organizations. I'm sorry, you can try to manipulate those words any way you want to, but if you kill innocent people without provocation, without having been attacked, uh, you're a terrorist organization. Okay, so we have to be careful because there are a lot of people that are appalled by the fact that people would be out protesting Israel, defending themselves, and they're appalled by that because of the terrorist attack on October 7th. But our First Amendment does give them the right to do it, okay? It gives them the right to peaceably assemble. So um, I think that there's due consideration and criticism if they, oh, I don't know, um, apply red paint to the gates of the people's house and they damage property. I don't know that I would put that into the context of peaceably assembling. But if they want to gather in Lafayette Square and protest The president, because he's actually supporting the Israelis, or at least he has had been supporting the Israelis. Um, People, they have the right to do that, and having the right to peaceably assemble, having the right of freedom of speech, does not necessarily mean that it's educated speech, but there's no law, and our Constitution protects uneducated speech. Um, our Constitution doesn't say that your speech has to be intelligent. You know, there may have been people during World War II that supported there were people that supported Hitler and the Nazi regime. Okay, Joe Kennedy was a proponent of the fascists in Nazi Germany. Um, so you can go out into the street and you can openly support Hamas. I don't agree with it. I think that um, I think it's sad. I think it promotes hate. I think it does all kinds of terrible things. But I also believe in our Constitution, and I believe in the rights of individuals. And therefore, as long as they peaceably assemble, I may not agree with them. I may think that a lot of their points of view are heinous, my opinion. Um, but they have the right to do that. Just like I would have the right to protest. Oh, let's have well, I would have the right to protest if, say, there was a peaceably assembled group of traditional Catholics that said it's not right that the government treats me or investigates me as some sort of a domestic terrorist. I would have the right to do that. Um, we don't do that because we believe in peace. We believe in love. Um, so we don't necessarily do that. Though if they started trying to prosecute people for practicing their faith, yeah, I could see myself getting out there, and there would be people that wouldn't like my point of view, and that would be okay. But I would have the right to do it. So I think we have to be careful, though we may not agree with certain people's speech. We can certainly agree that their speech is not educated. Um, and we could even think their speech is hateful. If they are not taking action on that, then our government protects them. It's it's the ability for the individual U.S. citizen to speak their mind and to speak their point of view without fear of the government shutting them down that has given us so many great ideas. It is the reason why we have so ultimately successfully rid ourselves of some of the things that we did in the past that weren't great, that weren't wonderful, that weren't fair, that didn't follow the belief systems that we put forth in the Constitution. It was the people that stood up to slavery. Those people that protested it, there were plenty of those that argued against them and didn't like it, but they were right, and we got rid of it. It was painful. A lot of people lost their lives, but we got rid of it. We got rid of a lot of things. The ability for Martin Luther King to march and to proclaim that we should all be equal despite the color of our skin. That was not agreed upon by everybody, but he had the right to do it under our Constitution. So even though there are people out there that may be spouting hate, there are also people that use the platform of freedom of speech to promote love. Those people I like to salute. And I'm glad that they use our Constitution accordingly. So as you're watching the news and you're seeing people say things that are, I mean, quite frankly, heinous, um, or uneducated, don't condemn them as people. You can condemn the thoughts, and you may think about some of the things that they're saying. Listen to them because they come from some place. If they come from hate, we don't need to participate. If they come from a place of love and caring and there's legitimacy, even though you may not necessarily agree with everything, listen to the things that you do agree with. But we can't promote shutting down freedom of speech. We also cannot allow the government to shut down freedom of speech, either by um, using the IRS as uh, their brown shirts, which they have done. We can't allow that. We can't allow the government to have the DOJ keeping people from practicing their faith simply because they don't like it. That's goes against our Constitution. We need to make sure that we are good stewards of the incredible freedoms that we have so that we don't infringe on or allow ourselves to be infringed when it comes to our faith, our freedom of speech, and our ability to protest. Think about those things. I'd love to have your feedback as always. I really appreciate some of the feedback I got on things last week. Tomorrow, we'll actually be doing a video that was suggested that I do based on what some of you may have heard this last week, the lawsuit against NAR and some real estate brokerages. We'll talk about that tomorrow a little bit, but I appreciate someone stepping up and asking me to talk about something. If you have some ideas you want us to discuss here, because it's an open platform and I want to hear your thoughts, please message me, make a comment. I read them all. I greatly appreciate them, and I look forward to hearing your thoughts about the First Amendment. Have a great day. Be blessed.